Hi, guys. Happy Thursday. I think it's Thursday. We took the trash down, so that means it's Thursday. I hope that you're having a good spring, a good June. I know the calendar officially, like it's spring, but I think of it as summer because of school break. So I wanted to come on and talk a little bit about what it looks like for me um, to incorporate healthy movement and exercise in my life as a mom, in particular, a mom who was never and really still don't consider myself an athlete, certainly not a natural athlete, um, and can just normal people make it happen. And especially as a mom of five and a homeschool mom, what it looks like and whether or not it's important, how to prioritize it, how to fit it in, what my goals are. Because I can tell you right now, like being super skinny is not my goal because that's not going to happen. I'm all about achievable goals. So feel free to ask any questions you might have in the comment box. And I'm still learning how all this works, but I'll try to look at that. But just a little bit of a background. When I say I'm not a natural athlete, piano was my sport growing up. So I spent hours and hours practicing and investing in that. That was my competition. That was sort of my sport. So I guess my only real experience of like healthy moving growing up was we would power walk in the mall sometimes on really hot or really cold days. I don't know if people do that anymore. I don't think people go to malls. Like you can't power walk Amazon, right? And my mom had an old Sweating to the Oldies VHS. So it had really great moves like It's My Party and I Can Cry If I Want to. That's what I just remember. So obviously not a huge part of my life. I did run some when I got a little older, and I did a couple 5Ks, but I'm not fast. I mean, I'm still not fast. I don't have that natural like athlete drive. Like if it starts to hurt or I have a cramp, like I'm gonna slow down. So yeah. But when I got married, I married a man who had played sports in high school and college, and in fact had gone to a military school for college. And he just like his idea of fun at night was to get out the free weights and do like calf raises. And so one of his early gifts to me when we first got married were some free weights. I think they were like 10-pound weights maybe or something. So it was really romantic. We would spend our evenings, gazing in each other's eyes as we did our bicep curls. So that was great. And that was what first sort of started getting me interested in, I guess, taking exercise a little bit more seriously. Not like taking it seriously, but trying to learn to love it, because I did want to be healthy and I want to be strong, because, and I guess this kind of plays into my whole goal and what I really wanted to encourage any moms out there who feel like they haven't been exercising or incorporating movement in their life because, I mean, we're busy. It's not always the fun thing we want to do, and maybe you've just sort of put it off for a long time. And so I guess I wanted to encourage you to think about what your goal is and why it's important not to go do crazy athletics necessarily, but why regularly incorporating healthy movement is so important. So I want to be strong and healthy long term, insofar as it depends on me, understanding that's all in God's providence. But I want to be strong for my children, not just now while they're young, but as they get older, with grandchildren, if God were to give us grandchildren. And then ultimately, like, I still want to have a lot of energy when the kids are gone with my husband. This is a long, hard job to be a mom of many and to homeschool. And I don't want to get to the end of that road and have my body completely broken down. I mean, it is breaking down, but insofar as I can, I would like to maintain that strength, that vivacity, and that energy, to enable ultimately for my time, even with my husband after the kids are gone, to still be full of life and vitality. So that's actually a really big part of my commitment to incorporating some sort of healthy movement in my life, even though often it's not really what I want to do. The other part of it is wanting to be a good steward of what God has made and this physical creation. In the video description, I linked to an Instagram post I did earlier this year. It was a picture from a psycho class I was doing, and one of the things I said in there is I really don't want us to be a Gnostic. So the Gnostics emphasized the spiritual, elevated it over the physical, and it's really important to me. I love thoughts and ideas and philosophy and books and history and all these wonderful, true, good, and beautiful things of the mind. But I want to also remember that Christ himself was incarnate and took on human flesh. Like, there's value in this body. It's part of being made in God's image, and not just our soul, but God made us human for a reason. This is his design. And so I think taking good care of the bodies that God has given to us is a way we can honor him, a way to glorify God and enjoy him forever, so to say. So I wrote a few notes to myself here while I was at the pool with the kids this afternoon, trying not to keep people from drowning. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about some practical tips. So, like I said, I am not a natural athlete, and so my goal has never been to do some big and glorious thing. And I think sometimes for some of us, that that thought of not being able to be awesome at something, or I mean, honestly, for me, sometimes the thought that I will never be the best at this, like I'll never win a competition, actually makes it really hard for me to be motivated to go do it. And that's bad, but I have to get over myself. So sometimes we just want to be great and do these big things. And I want to encourage us to not despise the days of small things. So be willing to do something simple. Maybe it doesn't seem like it's having a big impact, but over the long haul, those, 10 minutes walk around the block, or that once a week class at the Y, those things have a long-term impact. So I guess just to be okay with things that are simple and small. But just like really practical, I've tried a lot of different things. So I get bored. Also, seasons of life as moms change. So what works for you now may not work in 6 months. And what worked for you like before your last baby, if you keep putting off trying something, incorporating movement and healthy exercise in your life because you don't have time to do that thing you used to love, well, things may just be different. And so you may have to set aside that thing you had really enjoyed in the past for a time and find something that you can do now to kind of get you over that initial hump. So at some point, actually DVDs at home have been amazing, and I linked to some of my favorites, especially when I only had like 2 or 1 to 3 kids. Those exercise videos were a lifesaver. We didn't have extra money resources to like be members at the Y or any other gyms. My husband had work, and we didn't have other childcare. So if I was going to work out, I really had to find something I could do at home during nap time. And so some of those were my favorites. I wanted to especially mention the 10-minute solutions. I loved those because each DVD has 5 10-minute workouts. So some days all I had was 10 minutes. and I didn't have to feel like I was going to have to cut the workout short. I could feel like I had completed something. And so completing that 10-minute workout felt great. And then other days I had more time, and you could mix it around. You could do 2, you could do all 5. They were just very flexible for a young mom with little kids. They just worked really well in my unpredictable life with little people. Another practical suggestion is to have some sort of goal to work towards. I worked towards a few road races, not necessarily because I love to run. I actually really like, it's not like I love to run, and I'm not fast. Even when I was at my height of my training, I was still very slow. But through perseverance and the support of my family, I was able to finish several 5K and even over the course of the past few years, 3 half marathons. And I linked to Jeff Galloway's website in the description. Like I said before, if it starts to hurt, I like to stop. I don't push myself necessarily through the pain. So I really loved his plan. He has a walk-run plan where you, for instance, run for 4 minutes, walk for a minute from the very beginning. And I did that for all 3 of my half marathons. It helps prevent injury. It helps keep your energy up the whole time, and was a really good fit for me as someone who wasn't a natural runner or athlete. So definitely check that out as well. If the half marathon is not something interesting, he also has that same kind of training plan for shorter races as well. You can print them off for free from his website. The other thing that all of us can do, even if you're like either because of time or energy or perhaps physical limitations, you just really can't fit in, exercise in your day, I encourage you to do just a tiny bit of research on proper alignment of your joints. And that is something that we can all incorporate just in the everyday daily movements that we have as moms. Like how you stand while you're washing dishes actually has a dramatic impact on your body. One of the sites that I've learned a lot from, I posted in the video description. There's several free resources online, but even things as simple as when you're looking down at your feet, when you're standing up, make sure your feet are parallel to each other. It's really shocking when I first started being aware of my alignment, how one foot or the other would be bent and pointing different directions. So just being mindful of keeping my feet in parallel, keeping my feet lined up with my hips, making sure at all times when I'm standing in line at the grocery store, I will consciously raise my toes to make sure that my weight is shifted back over my heels and not forward. So simple things like that actually have a dramatic impact on our health and of our joints, and starting from the bottom up affects so many parts of our body. So I would really encourage all of you to look into being mindful of some of those basic bits of alignment, and just incorporating that in the things that you do every day. When you're waiting in line, when you're standing at the stove. Sometimes it's just those simple changes that we make that can end up having the biggest impact. And it all does add up. It all counts. I guess sometimes we think it doesn't count unless it's dramatic, but it counts. That simple faithfulness, those simple things, not waiting. I mean, you guys have heard me say this a million times, but not waiting for something to be perfect before you do it, because it's better to just do it and it be imperfect than to wait until you can do it all perfectly well and have the perfect exercise plan and do it, 6 days a week. Well, no, if you can just do it one day this week for 5 minutes, like do that 5 minutes. And then as you build that habit in, maybe then you'll be able to add in a new habit. But I can just, as I have started from such a non-athlete, disinterested at all, to now where I really, like I'm stronger than I was before I had my first child. And strength is beautiful, and strength is going to help me run the race that has been set before me with perseverance. So I hope that is an encouragement to anyone who is hesitant to put in their 5 loaves and 2 fish, so to say. So we've talked about stewardship. We've talked about the goal of being strong long-term. Talked about not being a Gnostic. We've talked about some of the things that have been beneficial for me. I also wanted to say, if you try something and it's a complete bust. So I really like working out in a class setting when possible. I feel like I tend to work out harder if someone is encouraging and exhorting me from the front of the room. But I completely despised my attempts at Zumba. So many people love it. That's not to say you shouldn't try it. But not only do my hips not lie, but they apparently don't do choreography very well. So it just was not a good fit for me. And that was okay too. I tried it, I gave it a fair try, and then I just moved on to something that was more fun for me. So it's okay if you find something you don't like it. It's better to stop doing that and find something that you do like and you actually will do than think, oh, well, I've got to go do this Zumba class. And then if you don't have that motivation there, it's going to be a lot harder to get out the door. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to mention too, as a marriage date night tip. So this works in seasons. I talked at the beginning, early on in our marriage, we would do a lot of working out in our living room together. And then not right now is not a season for this with my husband's work, but a couple years ago, for a good probably 2 years, we actually used our Y membership to give us exercise date nights. So the childcare was already paid for, so we could drop the kids off at childcare after work, after my husband got off work, and we would go up and we could walk on the track together and talk, actually just talk together and even hold hands, and there were no kids around, and then we could work out together. So we'd both do one of the machines, or we would do lunges side by side. And it actually is more romantic than it might sound. And it was a way to take our limited time and our limited resources and kind of kill 2 birds at the same time. So that's something to consider, either incorporating exercise in with friends. There have been other times I've gotten up early in the morning to walk with a neighbor, or incorporating exercise even with your spouse as kind of a date night thing. I mean, gets the blood pumping, it's good. Let's see. So it doesn't have to be fancy, simple. The final thing I wanted to mention specifically to anyone who is a homeschooler, a homeschool mom. So I've just been working on next homeschool plan, as I do every summer. And as I gauge our time, resources, and priorities, I actually make sure that I include my own movement in our actual homeschool schedule. So I put a link to my recent blog post about that. But if you do not put it on the calendar, if you just sort of have a nebulous goal of, oh yeah, I want to exercise more, that'd be really great, but you don't have an actual plan, okay, here's when I can do it in our actual life, with all the other commitments that you already have, go ahead and put the dates in the calendar. Write the time in the homeschool plan. I will even plan around, well, I will have my time with the kids during this portion of the day and save their independent time, or their independent work rather, for this portion of the day so they can be doing this reading while I do my movement. If you still have littles and you can incorporate it around rest time, that's always an option. Before they wake up, after they go to bed, whatever pocket of time works for your family. And it's different for all of us, and it changes as our kids change. But you have to actually plan for it. If you do not, it will not happen. And the times when I have not planned for my own physical stewardship in our family's calendar and homeschool plans, it just didn't happen. So moms are people too, and homeschool moms are people too. And it's important for us to be good stewards of our body, not only for our own sake, but also for the sake of showing our children that this is the kind of adult they can be. We want them to be healthy as adults, and so it's a way we can show them that it's actually worth prioritizing. So unless anyone has any questions, if you're watching this on the replay, feel free to drop a comment or a question and I'll get back to you. And definitely check all of the links and resources that I shared in the description. I put in some YouTube channels, several free apps. There's so much that you can do that doesn't even cost any money, but it's worth prioritizing. So I encourage all of you to now stop being on Facebook and get up and walk around the block a little bit or stretch. And I will talk to you later.